My wife and I were famous in our circle for being the most toxic couple imaginable. During the day, we spent every second trying to ruin each other's lives. Then at night, we'd go home and take all that hate out on each other in ways that made absolutely no sense. If she showed up in public with some younger guy on her arm, I'd turn around and smash her expensive car to pieces, and if I pissed her off, she'd lock me in a freezer for an entire day. The second I got out, I pushed her into a swimming pool, even though she couldn't swim. That was our marriage. By our third year together, she barely came home anymore. So I started showing up at the private clubs she liked and dragging her back myself. Every time she saw me, she'd look at me like I was the worst thing that had ever happened to her. Then she'd curse me with every cruel word she could think of. By our 5th year of marriage, her wish finally came true. I died. A stranger broke into the house and stabbed me over and over again, 33 times. Pain ripped through every part of my body. My vision started fading, and my mind slowly went blank. I tried to call for help, but all I could get out was this weak little sound from my throat. Still, I kept saying her name. Song Wenying. Using the last bit of strength I had, I reached for my phone and called her. She didn't answer the first time, so I called again. She ignored the second call too. I hit call a third time, then a fourth, a fifth. I honestly don't know how many times I called her. Finally, she picked up. I had barely managed to say one word before her cold voice cut me off. Lucinian, are you out of your mind? Why do you keep calling me? I could hear how annoyed she was. I don't have time to fight with you today. Xingye is back. I'm going to pick him up from the airport. Then she hung up. Just like that. She even turned off her phone after that, so I never got to say what I was trying to tell her. I gave a bitter smile as I lay there in my own blood. The words stayed trapped in my throat. Song Wenying, I'm dying. This time, can we stop fighting? But I never got to say them. The next time I opened my eyes, I was standing at the bridge of forgetting. Below me was the river of the dead, dark and endless. Meng Po stood in front of me, holding out a bowl of soup. Drink this, she said. Forget your past life and start over. So I drank it. One bowl, then another, then another. I drank 10 bowls in a row, but every memory was still there, clear as day. I looked at Meng Po and gave her a tired smile. Did you water this stuff down or something? She sighed. You're holding on too tightly, she said. What is it that you can't let go of? I closed my eyes. The truth was Song Wenying, Xingye, and I had grown up together. The three of us had been childhood friends. But even though Xingye and I were both by her side growing up, she only ever liked him. She'd skip class just to watch his basketball games. Whenever she looked at him, her eyes were full of this soft, quiet love. And me? I just wanted her to look at me the same way. So I started picking fights with her. I argued with her over everything. I did whatever I could to get her attention. Over time, we became sworn enemies. Then one day, her grandmother forced her to marry me. Song Wenying didn't want to do it, but she had no choice. On our wedding night, she found my diary by accident. That was when she learned I had always loved her. And from that moment on, she became convinced that I was the one who had pressured her grandmother into forcing the marriage. After that, she hated me more than ever. But there was something she never knew. Years ago, Song Wenying had been in an accident. The doctor said she might never wake up. Xingye, the man she loved so much, ran overseas almost immediately. But I stayed. I stayed by her side every single day, not knowing whether she would ever open her eyes again. Her grandmother saw everything I did for her. That was why, after Song Wenying woke up, her grandmother forced her to marry me. I wanted to tell Song Wenying the truth so many times, but every time I looked into her eyes and saw nothing but hatred, I couldn't get the words out. After seeing all my memories, Meng Po looked at me for a long time. Your attachment is too strong, she said. You can't move on like this. Then she made me an offer. I'll send you back to the human world for 5 days. If you can make Song Wenying say, I love you, I'll bring you back to life. But if you fail, you'll have to let everything go and enter reincarnation. Before I could respond, she waved her sleeve. Everything went dark. When I opened my eyes again, I was standing inside the villa I knew so well, and right there on the floor was my body. My dead body. My heart dropped. I slowly reached out and touched my own face. The skin was ice cold. I pulled my hand back like I'd been burned. I had spent my entire life trying to make Song Wenying love me. Now I only had 5 days left. How was I supposed to make that happen? Still, a tiny voice in my heart whispered, what if this wasn't the time to fall apart? I bent down, grabbed my body, and dragged it across the floor toward the closet. It took everything I had, but eventually I shoved the body inside and closed the door. Only then did I finally let out a breath. After that, I got some water, dropped to my knees, and started wiping up the blood on the floor. Every time I wiped away another stain, it felt like someone was twisting a knife in my chest. Just as I finished cleaning the last spot, a cold voice came from behind me. Lucinian, what are you doing? My entire body froze. I slowly turned around. Song Wenying was standing in the doorway, staring at me with pure disgust and impatience in her eyes. But she wasn't alone. Xingye was standing behind her. The second Xingye saw me, his face turned pale. His eyes filled with fear, and he actually took a few steps back. His reaction was so strange that even Song Wenying noticed. She quickly grabbed his arm. Xingye, what's wrong? He held onto her arm tightly and forced himself to stay calm. Nothing. I just smell blood. It's making me feel sick. Song Wenying immediately turned toward me, her eyes full of disgust. Lucinian, can't you go one day without causing trouble? It's been 5 years. When are you finally going to stop? I looked at her calmly. Then I used every bit of strength I had left and said, You want me to stop? Fine. Just say one thing. She frowned. Say you love me. For a second, the room went silent. Then Song Wenying laughed. It was the kind of laugh that hurt more than being stabbed. You want me to say I love you? She said. You really think you deserve that? Then she turned to Xingye, her face softening immediately. Xingye, I only love you. Xingye blushed and lowered his head. Wenying, don't say that. Sinian will get hurt. But Song Wenying didn't care. If he was really that fragile, he wouldn't have forced me to marry him in the first place. She took Xingye's hand. Come on, I'll show you the rooms. You can pick whichever one you want. My chest felt like it had been ripped open. I quickly stepped in front of them. What are you doing? Song Wenying looked at me like I was something stuck to the bottom of her shoe. Xingye just got back. His place is still being cleaned, so he'll stay here for a few days. Then she looked me dead in the eyes. Lucinian, don't forget this. If you hadn't used those disgusting tricks back then, the person standing in your place today would be him. My face went pale. Before, I would have started a huge fight. But now, I was too tired. All I could do was stand there and watch them walk past me. That night at dinner, Song Wenying and Xingye sat together, talking and laughing like this was their home, and I was just some unwanted guest. They looked so comfortable together, like Xingye was the real husband, and I didn't exist at all. I lowered my head and mindlessly pushed food into my mouth while their laughter filled the room. Every laugh felt like another needle going into my heart. Later that night, I accidentally overheard Xingye on the phone. I told you to kill him, he said quietly. So why is he still standing there perfectly fine? My whole body went cold. The cup in my hand slipped and smashed on the floor. Xingye spun around. I stared at him, my voice shaking. You hired that man? He was about to say something. Then he suddenly glanced past me like he had seen someone coming. The next second, he threw himself onto the floor. He cried out in pain. Song Wenying rushed over when she heard the noise. The second she saw Xingye on the ground, she lost it. She shoved me away and glared at me. Lucinian, what the hell did you do? Xingye grabbed onto her hand, looking weak and wronged. Wenying, don't blame him. Maybe he got angry because you confessed to me today. It's okay. If hurting me helps him feel better, I can take it. Song Wenying shot me a look like I was her enemy. Then she bent down and gently helped Xingye up. I'll take you to get treated. I watched them walk away, and all I could feel was bitterness. Back in my room, I took out the first aid kit and cleaned the cut on my arm. I'd gotten it when Song Wenying shoved me earlier. The sting from the antiseptic hurt, but it was nothing compared to what I felt inside. Just after I finished, Song Wenying pushed open the door. Can you seriously not go one day without causing problems? I looked up at her. Yeah, and what are you going to do about it? She didn't answer, but I knew that look in her eyes. It was the look that always came right before things between us got ugly. Sure enough, she grabbed me by the collar. Then she kissed me hard. There was no warmth in it, no love, just anger, like I was nothing more than something she could use to vent all her rage. I winced from the pain but didn't make a sound. Her breath brushed my ear as she whispered coldly, Lucinian, you will never have my love. I closed my eyes, tears slid down my face. When it was almost over, I said in a hoarse voice, Song Wenying, I love you. She froze for just a second. Then she let out a cold laugh. But I hate you. After that, she went into the bathroom and left me alone. The next morning, sunlight came through the window. But the first thing I thought wasn't, what a nice day. It was this. Only 4 days left. Time felt like a blade hanging over my head, ready to drop at any second and drag me straight into hell. I got out of bed, splashed cold water on my face, and walked downstairs. Xingye was sitting at the table, having breakfast. When he saw me, he smiled gently. Sinian, you're awake. Wenying went to work. He took a sip of coffee. She was supposed to cancel her meetings and take me to an auction today, but I didn't want her ignoring the company because of me. It took a lot, but I finally convinced her to go. Then he looked at me. I need someone to go with me. Why don't you come? I frowned, ready to say no, but Xingye put down his coffee and smiled. If you don't come, I'll call Wenying and tell her you pushed me down the stairs on purpose. My fingers curled into my palm. If Xingye said that, Song Wenying would believe him without even asking questions, and I didn't have time to explain myself anymore. I still needed her to say she loved me. I couldn't afford another fight. So I nodded. Fine, I'll go. On the way to the auction, I stayed silent. Xingye sat beside me, looking at his phone every now and then with a strange little smile on his face. Then suddenly the car slammed on the brakes. A black van had blocked the road. Before we could react, several masked men dragged us out of the car. Everything went dark. All I could hear was Xingye screaming and the kidnappers breathing heavily. When I woke up again, we were at an abandoned dock. The man in charge took off his mask. I recognized him immediately. Ji Xian, the former CEO of the G Group. Song Wenying had destroyed his company not long ago. I frowned at him. Jixian, what do you want? He gave me a cold smile. Song Wenying destroyed my family and my life, so I'm going to make her choose between the two people she cares about. With one wave of his hand, his men dragged Xingye and me to the edge of the dock. Below us, the ocean was black and violent. The waves crashed against the dock like they were ready to swallow us whole. Jixian called Song Wenying. Ms. Song, your 2 men are with me. You have 1 hour to choose one of them. The other one goes into the ocean. Remember, you only get to save one. 1 hour later, Song Wenying arrived. Her eyes moved from Xingye to me, then landed on Jixian. Let them go, she said coldly. Jixian smiled. I already told you. You can only choose one. Song Wenying looked between us. For a moment, nobody said anything. Then she said, I'm not choosing. Jixian's expression changed. Because I'm taking both of them home, she continued. I'm not leaving either one behind. I froze. Even Xingye looked stunned. I couldn't stop myself from asking, Don't you hate me? Yes, she said. I hate you. Then she looked straight at me. But you're still my husband. Unlike you, I'm not heartless enough to stand by and watch someone die. Her words hit me hard. I wanted to say something, but nothing came out. Jixian was furious. He shoved Xingye closer to the edge. Choose one now, or I'll throw them both in. Song Wenying's eyes instantly turned cold. She stepped forward, her voice low and dangerous. Jixian, if you touch either of them, I'll make you regret being born. Just then, police sirens sounded in the distance. Jixian's face changed. He clearly hadn't expected the police to get there so fast. In a panic, he pulled out a knife and rushed straight at Song Wenying. I didn't even think. I threw myself in front of her. The blade sank into my shoulder. A sharp pain shot through my body, and I collapsed. Song Wenying caught me before I hit the ground. For the first time, I saw panic in her eyes. Sinian! But my consciousness was already slipping away. I tried to speak. I wanted to tell her so many things, but I couldn't make a sound. Then everything went black. When I woke up, Song Wenying was standing in front of me, staring at me with nothing but hatred in her eyes. Lucinian, why did you put on that whole kidnapping act with Jixian? I blinked, completely confused. What are you talking about? Xingye told me everything, she snapped. He said you planned this kidnapping with Jixian because you wanted to hurt him. My mind went blank. Wenying, it wasn't me. She cut me off. I know you've always loved doing things just to get under my skin. But you can mess with anyone you want. You just can't touch Xingye. He's mine. Then she ordered her bodyguards to tie me to a stone and throw me into the swimming pool. The freezing water swallowed me whole. I couldn't breathe. My lungs burned as the world blurred around me. Right before I passed out, Song Wenying finally had them pull me out. But before I could even catch my breath, they threw me back in. Again and again. I lost count of how many times they did it. Eventually, they dragged me onto the ground. I lay there soaked and shaking, barely alive. Song Wenying crouched in front of me and grabbed my chin. Remember this. If you ever hurt Xingye again, what happens next won't be this easy. Then she left with her bodyguards. She never looked back. The countdown had reached day 3. That day, I received an invitation to a gala hosted by one of our mutual friends. Song Wenying and I were both invited. When I got downstairs, Song Wenying was at the door, and Xingye was standing beside her. I gave a bitter smile. What's this, Ms. Song? You're taking Xingye as your date? Her voice was full of disgust. Xingye is my date. Do you have a problem with that? No, I said. Just a reminder. We're still married. Aren't you worried what people will say when you show up with another man? Song Wenying gave a mocking laugh. Lucinian, you're just decoration. Don't think too highly of yourself. Then she walked away with Xingye without giving me another look. The gala was packed. The lights were bright and everyone turned to look when Song Wenying walked in with Xingye. She seemed determined to humiliate me. All night she stayed close to him, touched his arm, whispered in his ear, and smiled at him. People around us started talking, but I didn't go up to them. I knew the more I reacted, the happier she would be. Then, halfway through the night, Xingye said he was going to the restroom. Song Wenying nodded gently and watched him leave. A few minutes later, Xingye came running back. His clothes were messy and tears filled his eyes. Wenying, help me! He collapsed into her arms. In the restroom, Lucinian had someone drug me. The entire room went silent. Everyone turned to look at me. Song Wenying stood up so quickly that her chair scraped against the floor. She grabbed a wine glass from the table and smashed it on the ground. Lucinian, she said, staring at me, what did I tell you last time? If you touch Xingye again, I won't let you get away with it. I stood there quietly. I didn't do anything to him. Her face darkened even more. You think he'd make something like this up just to frame you? You've done this kind of thing before. I looked at her, exhausted. So what do you want me to do? Kneel, she said. Apologize to Xingye. My eyes widened. No! I clenched my fists. I kneel for heaven, for my parents, and for no one else. I will never kneel to him. I turned to leave, but Song Wenying stepped in front of me. Then she kicked the back of my knee. I wasn't expecting it. I crashed down onto my knees in front of everyone. "Apologize," she said. My dignity shattered piece by piece. "I told you. I didn't do it." Song Wenying lifted a hand. Two bodyguards immediately stepped forward, grabbed my shoulders, and forced my head down. My forehead slammed against the floor. "Are you going to admit you were wrong now?" Song Wenying asked impatiently. Something inside me finally broke. I ripped myself free from the bodyguards, stood up, and slapped Song Wenying across the face. The sound echoed through the silent ballroom. "Song Wenying," tears finally spilled from my eyes. "I told you I didn't do it. Why is it that whenever Xingye says something, you believe him without question? But when I say something, I'm always lying? You love him so much, but I'm your husband. What am I to you?" My voice shook as every bit of pain, anger, and humiliation came pouring out. That was the first time I had ever cried in front of Song Wenying. I had always been stubborn. I never showed weakness. But now I looked like someone who had finally been pushed too far. Song Wenying froze. She had never seen me like that. Her lips moved, but she didn't know what to say. I wiped my tears and looked at her one last time. "Song Wenying, remember this. I, Lucinian, never owed you anything." Then I turned around and walked out of the gala. The next day was the anniversary of my parents' death. I got up early and prepared to visit their graves. But when I reached the door, Song Wenying called out to me, "I'll go with you." I stopped walking. Then I looked back at her and laughed without humor. "What? Are you bringing bodyguards again so they can force me to kneel for Xingye?" Her face instantly went cold. "Yesterday was your fault. Are you seriously still going on about it?" I gave her a cold smile, pushed past her, and headed outside. But when I reached the car, I saw Xingye sitting in the passenger seat. "Brother Sinian," he said softly, "Wenying told me we were going to visit uncle and auntie. I wanted to come too." I turned towards Song Wenying, rage burning in my chest. "Song Wenying, this is where I draw the line. He is not going to my parents' graves." She frowned. "Xingye means well. Stop being so ungrateful." "Means well?" I laughed bitterly. "Today is my parents' death anniversary, not your date day." Xingye sighed. "Brother Sinian, why do you hate me so much? We used to get along so well." I stared at him. "Why do I hate you? You know exactly why." Song Wenying lost patience and grabbed my wrist. "Stop making a scene. Get in the car." I struggled, but I couldn't get free. The car sped toward the cemetery. The second we got there, I ignored them and walked quickly toward my parents' graves with flowers in my hands. "Mom, Dad, I'm here." Song Wenying followed me over at some point. She stood behind me looking at the headstone with a complicated expression. Then she said, "Mom, Dad, I may not like Lucinian, but I'll take care of him for the rest of my life." My body went stiff. After a long silence, I said through clenched teeth, "I don't need you to take care of me. I just need you to say you love me." Her expression hardened. "Impossible. Lucinian, don't push your luck. I will never love you." I didn't say anything else. After the visit, Song Wenying and Xingye turned around and left. But I stayed by my parents' graves for a while longer. I didn't want to leave them. Just as I was about to go, a cemetery employee stopped me. "Mr. Liu, there's something we think you should know." I turned toward him. He looked nervous. "A few days ago, Mr. Xingye forced us to dig up your parents' ashes. We refused, but he threatened us. He said the Song family would make our lives miserable if we didn't do what he wanted." I stared at him. My mind went blank. "What did you say?" The employee lowered his head. "Mr. Xingye scattered your parents' ashes." For a second, I couldn't breathe. Then I turned and ran. I rushed straight to the club where Song Wenying and Xingye were hanging out. When I burst into the private room, they were sitting on the couch playing Truth or Dare. Xingye had lost. The dare was for him to kiss Song Wenying. Just as his lips were about to touch hers, I grabbed a bottle from the table and smashed it over his head. The bottle shattered. Xingye groaned and fell to the floor. People screamed. Song Wenying stood up and slapped me across the face. "Lucinian, have you lost your mind?" "Me?" I shouted. The crazy one is him. Do you know what he did to my parents?" "My parents are dead," she snapped. "What could he possibly do to them?" "Their ashes!" My voice shook. "He scattered my parents' ashes!" Song Wenying froze for a second. Something moved in her eyes. But then Xingye started crying. "I didn't do that," he said. "Why are you framing me?" Song Wenying looked at me, her expression turning cold again. "You really are using the lowest tricks now. Your parents loved Xingye when they were alive. Why would he do something like that?" Then she narrowed her eyes. "You saw us about to kiss outside, didn't you? So you came here looking for a reason to start trouble." I stood there with tears in my eyes. "Song Wenying, you're so stupid." Then I laughed. "And I'm stupid too. That's why we were never meant to love each other." Then I turned and walked away. The next day was my last day. And Song Wenying still hadn't said the words I needed to hear. So I took a knife and went to the rooftop of the tallest building in the city. Then I sent Song Wenying my location. After that, I threw my phone aside and waited. News of my attempted suicide spread quickly. The building was surrounded by reporters and onlookers. Finally, Song Wenying showed up. She pushed through the crowd and stormed onto the roof, looking furious. "What are you doing now?" she snapped. "Did you see me at the hospital with Xingye and decide to cause another scene? Don't forget, you're the one who smashed his head open last night." I slowly turned around and looked at her. "Say you love me." Then I pressed the knife against my chest. "Or watch me die." Song Wenying stared at me in disbelief. "Lucinian, are you insane? You think you can force me to give in with this?" I didn't answer. I just looked at her. The knife stayed against my chest. Her face darkened with impatience. "Fine," she said. "Lucinian, in this life, the next life, and every life after that, I will never love you. Are you happy now? You can jump." I gave a quiet laugh. The knife slipped from my hand and hit the floor. Then I stepped down from the edge and walked over to her. For some reason, Song Wenying looked relieved. She gave a cold smile. "I knew you didn't have the guts to jump." I shook my head. "You don't understand. There's no point in jumping now, because I've already given up on you." Song Wenying frowned, like she wanted to say something. But then her phone rang. Her face softened the second she heard Xingye's voice. "Wenying, I'm in so much pain. Can you come stay with me?" "Okay," she said immediately. "I'm coming." She hung up, gave me one last cold look, and walked away without hesitation. But inside, I felt completely calm. Like all the pain, all the love, and all the obsession had finally disappeared. I left the rooftop and went to a law firm. There, I signed the divorce papers. I gave one copy to the lawyer. "Please send the other one to Song Wenying." Then I went back to the villa. I pulled my body out of the closet and gently placed it on the couch. After that, I picked up a piece of paper and wrote, "Song Wenying, I actually died a long time ago. These 5 days were time Meng Po gave me. She said that if you told me you loved me, I could come back to life. But you never did. So now I'm dead. And I don't love you anymore either. Love Xingye if you want. From now on, you'll never see me again." I placed the note beside my body. Then I sat down on the couch and closed my eyes. Slowly, my body became transparent. Then it broke apart into tiny lights and disappeared into the air. Back at the Bridge of Forgetting, Meng Po stood in front of me again. "Drink," she said. "This time, you're ready to let go." I took the bowl from her and drank every drop. As the soup went down my throat, a tear slid from the corner of my eye and fell into the bowl. Meng Po looked at me softly. "Do you still remember who Song Wenying is?" I looked confused. Then I shook my head. "Who?" Meng Po smiled. "Good. Go be reborn." I nodded and walked toward reincarnation. My figure slowly faded away until I became nothing more than a streak of light. From that day on, Lucinian no longer existed in this world. A day later, Song Wenying received the divorce papers sent from the villa. She scoffed when she saw them. "Lucinian is getting more ridiculous by the day. Yesterday he tried to kill himself. Today he wants a divorce. What's next? Is he going to cry at my grandmother's grave tomorrow?" Xingye looked through the papers. Then he noticed something strange. I had left every single thing I owned to Song Wenying. "Wenying," he said carefully, "I thought you didn't love him. Why not just divorce him? Then we can finally be together openly." Song Wenying looked at the papers for a long moment. Then she ripped them into pieces and threw them in the trash. "I don't love him," she said, "but I have to take care of him." That was Grandma's final wish. "No matter what tricks Lucinian used to force this marriage, I'm not divorcing him." Then she looked at Xingye. "But don't worry, I won't let you suffer. If Lucinian ever uses those dirty tricks to hurt you again, I'll make him pay 100 times over." Xingye smiled and nodded. But where Song Wenying couldn't see him, his face twisted with anger as he stared at the shredded divorce papers. He had come back for one reason. He wanted to become Song Wenying's husband. If he couldn't be with her, then what was the point of everything he had done? For the next few days, neither of them took the divorce papers seriously, and Lucinian didn't call anymore. He didn't send messages. He didn't show up to make trouble. Because of that, Song Wenying and Xingye spent a quiet, happy stretch of time together. When the media interviewed them, Song Wenying didn't stop Xingye from wrapping an arm around her shoulder. She even kissed him in front of the cameras and said the person she loved was right beside her. But every time she did something like that, she couldn't help thinking about Lucinian. Normally, he would have exploded. He would have called her non-stop, shown up to fight, and made a huge scene. But this time, nothing happened. Song Wenying waited for his calls. She waited for his messages. She waited for him to come running back like he always did. But 10 days passed. Not one call. On the 11th day, she checked her phone herself just to make sure she hadn't blocked him. She hadn't. Lucinian really had gone silent. That should have made her happy. But somehow, it didn't. That night, Xingye woke up beside her. "Wenying," he said sweetly, "sleep a little longer. How about we go see the northern lights today?" Song Wenying had given him anything he wanted lately. But this time, she just stared at her phone and said no. The whole day, she looked distracted. Every few minutes, she checked her phone again. Xingye clenched his jaw. Later that night, they were lying in bed when Song Wenying's phone suddenly vibrated. She immediately stopped and grabbed it. But when she saw it was just spam, she threw the phone away in frustration. Even she didn't understand why she was so angry. Was she waiting for Lu Xinian to contact her? Was she expecting him to beg her to come home again? Song Wenying's face darkened. She took out her frustration on Xingye. But the more she heard his voice, the more Lu Xinian's voice filled her head instead. Not long after, she pushed Xingye away, got dressed, and stood up. Wenying, it's so late. Where are you going? To find Lu Xinian, she said coldly. That man is probably up to something again. I'll go teach him a lesson, then I'll come back. She left without looking back. She had no idea that 1 hour later, this would become the day she regretted most for the rest of her life. When Song Wenying arrived at the villa, she noticed a strange smell outside the door. Her first thought was that Lu Xinian had planned some new stunt to force her to come back. She kicked the door open. The lights were off. The house was silent. Lu Xinian, she called out, annoyed. Are you happy now? I left Xingye and came back. You've been quiet all these days just waiting for this, right? No answer. She turned on the lights and started walking upstairs. I want to see what kind of game you're playing this time. What, did you actually die? Lu Xinian, we're adults. When are you going to grow up? Stop playing these stupid games. The smell got stronger as she walked farther inside. A few flies buzzed past her face. She frowned in disgust, still wondering what kind of mess I had created this time. Then she walked into the upstairs living room. The smell hit her so hard that she almost gagged. She reached for the light switch. The room lit up. And finally, Song Wenying understood what that smell was. It was the smell of a rotting corpse. It was the sound of flies buzzing. It was the sound of maggots moving. It was me, dead on the couch. Song Wenying stopped breathing. Lu Xinian? She said my name quietly, like she couldn't believe it. Then she slowly walked closer. Nobody answered. Her heart started beating so hard it felt like it was trying to break out of her chest. Lu Xinian, enough. Stop playing around. I admit I've been ignoring you lately. You don't need to make a joke this disgusting. She tried to sound calm, but when she got close enough to see my face, her voice began to shake. She reached out, wanting to touch me. But before her hand got there, she saw the note beside my body. She read it. Song Wenying, I actually died a long time ago. These 5 days were time Meng Po gave me. She said that if you told me you loved me, I could come back to life. But you never did. So now I'm dead. And I don't love you anymore either. Love Xingye if you want. From now on, you'll never see me again. Her hands started trembling uncontrollably. She looked from the note to my body, her eyes shaking with emotions she couldn't hide. Her throat felt like someone was choking her. She couldn't breathe. Then, Song Wenying finally broke. She ran into the bathroom and started throwing up. After what felt like forever, her phone rang. Still dizzy, she picked it up. Lu Xinian, she said immediately. You really put on one hell of a show this time. I admit it, you win. Lu Xinian, you win. There was silence on the other end. Then Xingye's voice came through. Wenying, it's me. Can you come back and stay with me? Song Wenying hung up without saying a word. Her mind slowly cleared. She walked back to my body and read the note again. Then she whispered, I love you. Nothing happened. She crouched down beside me. I love you, Lu Xinian. Her fingers crumpled the note in her hand. You hear me? Isn't this what you wanted? I said it now. I love you. I can say it as many times as you want. Stop this ridiculous joke. But the more she said those words, the more terrified she became. Why wasn't I waking up? Why wasn't I coming back? Lu Xinian couldn't really be gone. At the end, her eyes turned red as she desperately reached toward my body. Then the phone rang again. She grabbed it like it was her last hope and put it to her ear. Where are you, Lu Xinian? She cried. Where are you? I've said it so many times now. If you want to hear it, I'll keep saying it. I love you. Is that enough, Lu Xinian? Song Wenying sounded furious. But underneath that anger, there was something else. Fear. She stood there holding the phone tightly, waiting for an answer. But the voice on the other end wasn't Lu Xinian's. Wenying, what are you talking about? Xingye said in a shaky voice. Please come save me. Lu Xinian came here while you were gone. He said he was going to make me pay. Song Wenying could picture exactly how upset Xingye sounded. Normally, she would have rushed over without even thinking. But this time, she just lowered her eyes and looked at Lu Xinian's body. Then she asked in a numb voice, Lu Xinian went to see you? Yes, Xingye said quickly. The second you left, he came over. He said he'd make me regret everything. Song Wenying suddenly laughed. But there was nothing funny about it. Stop pretending, Xingye, she said coldly. Lu Xinian is dead. The other end of the phone went quiet. For a long moment, Xingye didn't say anything. Then, in a small and careful voice, he said, I just miss you, Wenying. I know you're upset. Let me come be with you. Upset? Song Wenying repeated. Her face went blank. Why would I be upset? Lu Xinian and I were enemies. He's dead. I should be happy. Xingye took a breath, then asked the question he had clearly been waiting to ask. Then let's get married. Song Wenying's expression instantly turned cold. I told you before, she said. I'm going to take care of Lu Xinian for the rest of my life. whether he's alive or dead. Xingye froze. Then he finally snapped. So what? You expect me to stay with you forever without a name or a place in your life? His voice rose with anger. Song Wenying, when are you ever going to think about me? She didn't answer. She just hung up. After the call ended, Song Wenying stood there in complete silence. Her mind kept replaying everything that had happened during those 5 days. Before that, Lu Xingye had never asked whether she loved him. Why would he? Everyone knew she hated him. But during those 5 days, he had thrown away every bit of pride he had just to hear one sentence from her. I love you. At the party, he had cried in front of her. On the rooftop, he had looked completely broken. And every time he asked her to say those words, she rejected him without mercy. Song Wenying's chest slowly tightened. She turned toward Lu Xingye's body again and whispered, I love you. Still nothing. A wave of pain hit her so hard that she raised her fist and slammed it into the wall. Once, twice, again and again. She kept punching until blood ran down her hand. Only then did she stop. 5 days ago. How exactly had Lu Xingye died? Song Wenying lifted her red, swollen eyes and immediately ordered someone to investigate. Not long after, she got the security footage from that day. And when she watched it, her entire body went cold. A stranger had broken into the villa. He had stabbed Lu Xingye 33 times. Lu Xingye had been lying in a pool of blood, barely alive. He still had a chance. He had reached for his phone. He had called someone. Over and over again. After endless ringing, the call was finally answered. But before Lu Xingye could even explain what was happening, the person on the other end started yelling at him. Song Wenying's face turned pale. Because the voice in the video was hers. She suddenly remembered that call. She remembered exactly what she said. She told him to stop bothering her. She said Xingye had come back and she was going to pick him up. Then she hung up on him. She never even gave him the chance to say a single word. If she had been just a little more patient that day, would Lu Xingye still be alive? She didn't dare think about it. She stared at the footage with empty eyes. Then, not long after Lu Xingye died, another version of him appeared in the video. The Lu Xingye who had only been given 5 days. He cleaned up the blood. He hid his own body. And after that, Song Wenying came home with Xingye. She didn't even need to watch the rest of the footage. She already knew what she had done. Still, the voices from those days kept playing in her head like a nightmare. You want me to stop? Fine. Just say you love me. I love you? You think you deserve that? Just say one thing. Say you love me. Impossible, Lu Xingye. Never. Every single conversation had been a cry for help. All she had needed to do was say one sentence. Even if she had only said it to shut him up. Even if she didn't mean it. He would have lived. But instead she had crushed his hope again and again. Until the last day. Until he stopped asking for love and handed her divorce papers instead. Song Wenying felt like someone had grabbed her heart and squeezed as hard as they could. The room started spinning. She could barely stand, but she forced herself up and called her assistant. Find out who the man was, she said, her voice shaking with rage. Find out who broke into this house 5 days ago. Her assistant was startled by the look on her face. While she waited, Song Wenying couldn't control herself. She started smashing things around the villa. Expensive vases, paintings, antiques, anything in reach. Everything became a target for her anger. Eventually, she was too exhausted to move. That was when her assistant returned with a thick file in hand. But the assistant looked nervous. Ms. Song, she said carefully, we found the man who broke in that day. But what? Song Wenying snapped. The assistant flinched and handed her the file. Song Wenying snatched it from her, then she started reading. And with every page, her face became whiter. The person who had hired Lu Xingye's killer was someone Xingye knew, but that wasn't all. The assistant had investigated everything, every accident, every false accusation, every setup that made Song Wenying hate Lu Xingye even more. It had all been Xingye. He had planned it all. Song Wenying kept turning the pages. Then she reached the last one. And all the color drained from her face. Lu Xingye had been telling the truth. Xingye really had scattered his parents' ashes. Lu Xingye had finally lost control because of it. He had tried to make Xingye pay, but Song Wenying had stopped him. She remembered the look in Lu Xingye's eyes that day. He had looked so hopeless. Then, he had stood on that rooftop, begging her for just one answer, and she had kept hurting him anyway. Song Wenying felt ice spreading through her veins. Why? Why would Xingye do all of this? She had given him everything. Why was he still trying to destroy Lu Xingye? Why had he even hired someone to kill him? Her anger became something terrifying. She picked up her phone and called Xingye. Come to the villa, she said. Her voice was so cold that it didn't sound human. Xingye had no idea what was waiting for him. He arrived quickly, clearly excited. He had even dressed up. The second he saw Song Wenying, he walked toward her with a smile. Wenying, is it true that Lu Xingye is dead? He asked. I brought flowers. I thought we could go pay our respects. He held out a bouquet of bright red roses. They looked beautiful. Almost too beautiful. Song Wenying stared at him. And for the first time, she wondered how she had ever failed to see what kind of person he really was. Xingye noticed her staring. Wenying, why are you looking at me like that? Is there something on my face? Even now, he was pretending. Song Wenying gave a cold laugh. Whether Lu Xingye is dead or not, she said, aren't you the one who knows best? Xingye's face changed for a split second, but then he quickly forced a confused expression. What are you talking about? How would I know? Song Wenying didn't say anything. She stepped closer, grabbed his chin, and stared into his eyes. For 1 second, Xingye looked hopeful. Then she slapped him across the face, hard. Xingye fell to the ground. The flowers scattered everywhere. He held his cheek and looked up at her in shock. Wenying, why did you hit me? Then his expression changed, like he had figured something out. I get it. Xingye must have told you something, right? His eyes became bitter. Whatever he said, it's a lie. He's jealous of me. Wenying, don't you remember? Xingye tried to hurt me so many times. Are you really going to believe him? The more he talked, the angrier Song Wenying became. Xingye, she said quietly, you really want to die. Then she kicked him. He hit the floor hard enough to split his forehead open. Blood started running down his face. Xingye still didn't understand. Why was Song Wenying doing this? Xingye was already dead. Why was he still ruining everything from beyond the grave? Crying, Xingye crawled over and grabbed Song Wenying's leg. Wenying, tell me what I did wrong. I'll fix it. I'll do anything. Please don't believe Xingye. He's dead now. It's just the two of us from now on. But Song Wenying's eyes held none of the affection they once had. She looked down at him and threw the investigation file into his face. Every page exposed something he had done. Xingye's face went pale. He grabbed onto her pants, tears filling his eyes. It's not like that, he said desperately. I had my reasons. Xingye started it. He always provoked me first. Song Wenying grabbed his chin again. This time her eyes were filled with a storm of rage. Even now you're trying to blame him? I trusted you so much. And you lied to me again and again right in front of my face. Xingye, you've got a lot of nerve. The anger in her voice terrified him. He begged her to forgive him. But Song Wenying had never been a soft-hearted person. Her voice stayed ice-cold. I trusted you because I missed you. I believed you because I wanted to. And because of that, Xingye ended up like this. She looked toward the upstairs living room. Do you know where he is right now? If you go apologize to him, maybe I'll forgive you. Xingye stopped crying. His eyes lit up. He thought he still had a chance. He had been with Song Wenying for so long. She couldn't possibly feel nothing for him. She had always hated seeing him cry, so he nodded quickly. I'll go right now. I'll go to Xingye's grave. I'll apologize properly. Song Wenying smiled. But it was a dark, terrifying smile. No need. He's right here. Xingye looked confused. Why would Xingye be here? But Song Wenying didn't explain. She grabbed his arm and dragged him toward the second floor. The moment Xingye entered the villa, he had noticed a strange smell. But the farther upstairs they went, the worse it got. He frowned and covered his nose. Wenying, where are you taking me? What is that smell? It's disgusting. Song Wenying looked back at him. I'm taking you to see Xingye. Xingye frowned even harder. Isn't Xingye dead? But she didn't answer. They reached the upstairs living room. The lights were off, everything was dark. Song Wenying kept pulling him forward until Xingye's leg bumped into something. Then she stopped and turned on the lights. Xingye looked down. The second he saw Xingye's body, he almost threw up. Are you insane? He yelled. Why would you bring me here to look at a corpse? He covered his mouth, trying not to collapse. But Song Wenying grabbed him and forced him closer. Look at him, she said. Look at what you did. Xingye, don't you remember? You're the one who killed him. You hired someone to break into this house and stab Xingye to death. And that day just happened to be the day you came back to the country. Xingye's eyes shook with fear. His face was almost close enough to touch Xingye's body. But after that, Xingye was still alive, he said, barely able to speak. Yes, Song Wenying said. After that day, he was still alive. He had a chance to live. Then she looked at Xingye with hatred burning in her eyes. But because of you, I rejected him again and again. Song Wenying let go of him. Xingye stumbled backward and nearly fell onto Xingye's body. He crawled away and started throwing up. Then Song Wenying told him everything. Xingye had died. Meng Po had given him 5 days. And if Song Wenying had said, I love you just one time, he would have come back to life. But someone had kept getting in the way. Someone had lied, manipulated her, and made sure she never trusted him. When Song Wenying said that, her eyes locked onto Xingye. He started trembling. Finally, he understood why she was so angry. He tried to explain. I didn't want it to happen like this, he cried. But I love you. I didn't want to stay with you without a real place in your life. I wanted to be with you openly. I did all of this for us. I knew you didn't want to divorce Xingye, so I had no choice. Wenying, don't you believe me? Everything I did was because I love you. A cruel smile appeared on Song Wenying's face. You love me? Xingye nodded over and over, hope flickering in his eyes. But Song Wenying's voice stayed cold. When I got into that car accident years ago, you left the country almost immediately. Then you came back after you heard how successful I had become. Is that your idea of love? Xingye froze. Song Wenying stepped closer. Xingye was the one who took care of me. He stayed beside me until I recovered. You say you love me? Then where were you when I needed you the most? Every question hit Xingye like a slap. The hope in his eyes disappeared. He hadn't expected Song Wenying to know about what happened back then. His face turned white. "No," he said quickly. "I didn't come back because of money. Wenying, please believe me." Song Wenying's face was as cold as ice. "The result of trusting you was Lucinian's death. During those 5 days, I had countless chances to save him. But because you kept lying to me, because you kept framing him, I never gave him that chance." With every word, her anger grew worse. She grabbed Xingye by the throat. He turned red almost immediately. He couldn't even get a full sentence out. Fear flooded his face. He had never seen Song Wenying like this before. Not this angry, not this broken. Tears ran down Xingye's face as he struggled to breathe. "I'm sorry," he managed to whisper. But Song Wenying didn't let go. She watched him fight for air with a cold, empty expression. Only when he was close to passing out did she finally throw him onto the floor. "Letting you die that easily would be too kind," she said. "You like putting things on other people that they never did? Then you can experience every single thing you accused Lucinian of." Xingye lay on the floor, gasping for breath. A few moments ago, he thought dying would be the worst possible thing. Now he realized that dying might have been easier. Song Wenying had already decided his punishment. "It starts with the time you claimed Lucinian pushed you down the stairs." "No!" Xingye screamed. The bodyguards rushed in. They dragged Xingye away. And Song Wenying made him suffer the same kind of cruelty he had falsely blamed on Lucinian. Again and again, she forced him to face the pain he had created with his lies. By the time he passed out, his whole body was broken down by fear and agony. But Song Wenying wasn't done. After he spent time in the hospital, barely recovering, she had him taken to the beach. The freezing wind blew across the dark water. Xingye started shaking the moment he saw the ocean. He remembered what he had accused Lucinian of doing. He remembered how Song Wenying had tied Lucinian down and repeatedly thrown him into the water. Tears filled his eyes as he grabbed Song Wenying's clothes. "I know I was wrong," he begged. "Wenying, please let me go." But she showed no mercy. She had him bound and thrown into the freezing water. The ocean swallowed him instantly. He couldn't swim. He fought to get air, choking on salt water as panic took over. Whenever he was close to drowning, Song Wenying had him pulled back up. But the second he gasped for breath, he was thrown under again. It went on through the entire night. Every time he passed out, the guards forced him awake. They made sure he felt every second of the terror he had once arranged for Lucinian. By sunrise, Xingye barely looked alive. His lips had turned pale. His body shook uncontrollably. He begged through tears. "Wenying, please, I know I was wrong. I'll go to Lucinian's grave. I'll apologize. I'll repent for the rest of my life." But Song Wenying only looked at him coldly. "You can't handle this much? You haven't paid back everything you did yet." Xingye's face went even whiter. He seemed to realize what she meant. "No," he whispered. "Please, don't do that." Song Wenying gave him a mocking smile. "Xingye, you'll get your chance to apologize at Lucinian's grave. But first, you're going to pay for every single thing you did." She took him to a hotel and continued making him suffer for the lies, cruelty, and manipulation he had used against Lucinian. Days passed before Song Wenying finally told the guards to leave. Xingye was left collapsed on the floor. He looked completely broken. He had no pride left, no strength left, no hope left. Song Wenying stood over him for a long time. Eventually, Xingye slowly realized someone was watching him. His dull eyes began to focus. The moment he saw her, he crawled forward and grabbed her ankle. "Wenying!" he cried. His voice was barely there. He was terrified, desperate, and completely shattered. But Song Wenying looked down at him without emotion. Unlike Xingye, she still had a chance to ask for forgiveness. Lucinian had nothing. He was already gone. Finally, Song Wenying spoke. "If you repay everything you owe him, I'll forgive you." To Xingye, that sounded like a way out. He nodded frantically. "I'll do anything," he said. "Anything at all." So they took him to Lucinian's grave. There, Song Wenying forced him to kneel, and she made him pay for the 33 wounds Lucinian had suffered. Xingye tried to run. He screamed. He begged. But Song Wenying held him in place and made sure he stayed there. By the 33rd time, Xingye's face was twisted with pure hatred. He looked up at Song Wenying and started laughing like he had lost his mind. "Why?" he screamed. "Why are you doing this to me?" Song Wenying's expression didn't change. "Because you killed Lucinian," she said. "This is what you deserve." Xingye laughed harder. Then he pointed at her with shaking fingers. "You keep saying you don't love Lucinian, but you do. You love him. That's why you're this angry. That's why you're taking revenge on me. But it's too late. You think Lucinian died because of me? No, he died because of you. Because you never trusted him. Because you never cared enough to listen. If you had treated him even a little better, do you think he would have been so desperate to die? Song Wenying, you're the real reason he's gone. You love Lucinian so much that you've gone insane. You're a monster now. But no matter what you do, Lucinian isn't coming back. You're going to live with this for the rest of your life." His voice got weaker and weaker. Eventually, he collapsed. Tears slid down the corners of his eyes. Then Xingye closed them for the last time. Song Wenying stood there, watching him in silence. She still refused to admit that she loved Lu Xinian, but deep down, all those feelings were crashing over her like waves. She didn't know how to face them, so she left Xingye's body behind and returned to the villa. The house had been cleaned. The awful smell was gone. Everything looked normal again. But the second Song Wenying walked inside, she felt like flies were still buzzing around her. Like the house would never let her forget what had happened there. She went upstairs and sat on the couch. Lu Xinian, she said to the empty room, you should be satisfied now. Xingye is dead. I told you I would take care of you for the rest of my life. Whether I loved you or not, I did what I promised. I made him pay. She paused, then she said quietly, I also found out the truth about Grandma. I was wrong about you all along. I'm sorry, Lu Xinian. It was the first apology she had ever given him. They had fought so many times before. They had hurt each other, hated each other, and refused to back down. But now, the one person who always fought back was gone. And Xingye was gone too. Song Wenying suddenly felt empty. She leaned back against the couch and stared up at the ceiling. That invisible buzzing still followed her. When are you coming back? She whispered. Your company is doing fine. I've been taking care of everything. When you come back, I'll give it all back to you with interest. Lu Xinian, you never liked giving in to me. So why don't you want to argue anymore? Then a sad smile appeared on her face. Yeah, you're dead now. You can't even smash my car anymore. She stumbled out of the villa. Later that night, Song Wenying went to a private room at a bar. She ordered a bunch of male escorts and drank until she could barely sit up straight. Empty bottles covered the floor. When her friends heard about it, they came over. The second they walked in, they looked surprised. Wenying, that's what I'm talking about, one of them said. You got rid of your problem and you came straight out to celebrate. I told you Lu Xinian was nothing. There's no way you ever loved him. Tomorrow, let's check out that new club. I heard the guys there are even better. They sat down and kept talking. Song Wenying didn't say much. She just smiled faintly, her eyes unfocused. If Lu Xinian heard this, he'd probably smash another one of my cars. Her friends laughed. Everyone in their circle remembered that story. Song Wenying had spent a day partying with other men once, and Lu Xinian had destroyed her car right afterward. People always joked about how explosive his temper was, and how the two of them really were born enemies. But as her friends kept talking, Song Wenying stayed quiet. She just kept drinking. Then suddenly her phone rang. She narrowed her eyes and clicked her tongue. It's probably Lu Xinian again, she said irritably. I didn't go home, so now he's calling nonstop. Ignore him. Let's keep drinking. The room went silent. Only the phone kept ringing. Song Wenying didn't notice at first. Then one of her friends quietly reminded her, Wenying, Lu Xinian is dead. There's no one left to control you. The words were soft, but they hit her hard. Song Wenying froze. That's right, Lu Xinian was dead. How had she forgotten? The person she thought she hated was gone. No one would call her over and over again anymore. No one would demand to know whether she loved him. No one would storm up to her, furious, trying to drag her home. And somehow, in every memory of him, she could finally see it. The love in his eyes. Love he had never been able to hide. Song Wenying felt something sour rise in her throat. She forced a pale smile. I'm just so happy, she said. I forgot. Come on. Keep drinking. Tonight is on me. The room slowly became lively again. But Song Wenying couldn't enjoy any of it. Every memory of Lu Xinian kept coming back. Again and again. It felt like there was a hole in her chest, and no matter how much alcohol she drank, she couldn't fill it. The more she drank, the clearer everything became. It was like Lu Xinian was standing right in front of her, wearing that annoyed expression, looking at her with those eyes. You trying to kill yourself? He would say. Why do you always drink this much? Do you want to die in a bar? You've got some nerve. You're really out here letting people spread rumors about you? Get home. Then another memory came back. Song Wenying, are you insane? You locked me in a freezer. Do you know I almost died in there? You should go die too. When I feel like it, maybe I'll come get you. Song Wenying's lips curled into the faintest smile at the memories. One of her friends noticed. Wenying, you think what we said is funny too, right? She blinked. What? The thing about Lu Xinian, her friend said with a grin. Sure, you two were enemies, but he was actually pretty attractive. Some of us even thought that after you divorced him, we might try our luck. Lu Xinian would have been fun. Too bad he died. The friends laughed together. Song Wenying's expression changed instantly. Her fingers tightened around the bottle until it made a cracking sound. She slowly turned toward the woman who said it. Her eyes were cold enough to freeze the room. You dare? Her friend was startled, but after a moment she got annoyed too. Why wouldn't I dare? She said. You hated him, didn't you? If he had left you, why couldn't someone else be with him? Wouldn't that be better? Song Wenying stood up so suddenly that her chair scraped across the floor. Then she slammed the bottle onto the ground. Glass shattered everywhere. Her eyes were filled with anger unlike anything her friends had ever seen. Say that again, she said. Her voice was low and terrifying. The The woman got angry too. She rushed forward, grabbed Song Wenying by the collar and yelled, "Am I wrong? You said you didn't love him, so why are you acting like this now?" The two of them started fighting right there in the private room. Everything turned into chaos. Their friends rushed over to pull them apart. "Stop it!" one of them shouted. "You've been friends for over 20 years. Are you seriously fighting over a man? And he's Lucinian. He's already dead. It's not like he can even hear what we're saying." Several people had to hold Song Wenying back. Her chest rose and fell heavily, but her eyes stayed locked on that woman. For days there had been this pressure building inside her. Torturing Xingye hadn't made it go away. Going out, drinking, surrounding herself with people, it hadn't helped either. Nothing made her feel better. And when she heard someone speak about Lucinian like he was just some dead man they could joke about, she finally snapped. Her eyes turned red. "Who gave you the right to talk about him like that?" she shouted. "I will never divorce Lucinian. Even if he's dead, he still belongs to me." The other woman refused to back down. The friends standing between them looked helpless. "Wenying, what are you doing? Are you really throwing away over 20 years of friendship for a dead man?" "Lucinian is gone. We only said a few things. Why are you getting this worked up?" And logically, they were right. Song Wenying kept telling herself that too. But every time she remembered what they had said about Lucinian, she felt like she was losing control all over again. How could they talk about him like that? Lucinian was her husband. Even in death, he was still hers. Then the woman across from her gave a cold laugh. "Can't you all see it yet?" she said. Song Wenying fell in love with Lucinian a long time ago. The room went silent. That statement hit harder than the fight itself, because Lucinian wasn't just anyone. He had always been Song Wenying's enemy, the man she claimed to hate more than anyone. Someone in the crowd frowned. "No way. Wenying would never fall for Lucinian." "Why not?" the woman shot back. "Look at her right now. If she didn't love him, why would she be this upset? She didn't just turn on Xingye, she destroyed him, and now she can't even stand hearing a few words about Lucinian." Nobody spoke. After Lucinian died, everyone assumed Song Wenying would end up with Xingye. Instead, she had punished Xingye for weeks and ultimately made sure he paid for everything he had done. Even that alone had seemed strange. Now, with the truth thrown right in front of them, everyone started wondering the same thing. "Wenying," one of them asked carefully, "do you really love Lucinian?" Everyone looked at her. The woman she had fought with stared straight at her. "Say it. Do you love Lucinian or not?" For a few seconds, Song Wenying said nothing. Then she suddenly flipped the table beside her. Bottles and glasses crashed across the floor. The loud sound made everyone jump. Song Wenying looked like she had completely lost control. Her voice came out rough and broken. "I do love him. I loved him a long time ago." For the past few days, she had refused to let herself slow down. Because the second she had a quiet moment, everything came back. Lucinian's body, his face, the divorce papers she had torn apart, and Xingye's last words before he died. All of it kept replaying in her mind. She kept asking herself one question. Why? Why couldn't she just say it? "I love you." 3 simple words. That was all Lucinian needed. If she had said them, he could have come back to life. But she didn't. Every time he came to her, every time he begged her, every time he looked like he was at the end of his rope, she pushed him away. She insulted him, she hurt him, and she made him feel like he meant nothing. Song Wenying had nightmares about it now. In her dreams, she went back to those 5 days. Lucinian would stand in front of her and ask, "Just say you love me." And in the dream, she would say it without hesitation. "I love you." Lucinian would look surprised, like he couldn't believe she had said it so easily. Then, he would come back to life. But every time Song Wenying woke up, the room was empty. Lucinian was still dead, and she no longer had the chance to say it. Regret wrapped around her heart like something poisonous. Every day, it tightened a little more. She had always believed she hated him. She thought they were enemies. But when the truth came out, and when Lucinian disappeared from her life forever, she finally understood how ridiculous that hatred had been. Lucinian died, and it felt like he had taken her heart with him. When she punished Xingye, she told herself it was revenge. She thought that once Xingye was gone, she would finally feel at peace. But when he was truly gone, there was no excuse left. Nothing left to blame. Nothing left to fight. The emptiness came crashing down on her like a wave, and she felt like she was drowning in it. Every calm moment brought Lucinian back into her mind, and every time she thought of him, she had to face the same truth. He was gone. Song Wenying had been terrified to admit what she felt. How could she possibly love Lucinian? But now she couldn't hold it in anymore. She grabbed whatever she could find and smashed it. Her voice echoed through the room. "I love Lucinian. I love him. But he's dead now. He left me here alone. What am I supposed to do? The last time I saw him, he was already dead. I could have saved him. I had so many chances to save him, but I didn't do anything." Then she finally broke down. She cried so hard that nobody in the room knew what to say. These were people who had known Song Wenying for years. They had seen her angry. They had seen her cold. They had seen her destroy people without blinking. But they had never seen her this vulnerable. Never this lost. Never this broken. She was supposed to be untouchable. But now, because of Lucinian, she was standing there with nothing left. Unfortunately for her, realizing she loved him didn't bring him back. The room was filled only with Song Wenying's sobs and screams. Then suddenly her assistant rushed in. "Ms. Song!" Song Wenying turned around. "What?" "Mr. Xingye is looking for you." Everything stopped. Song Wenying's eyes widened. Xingye was dead. How could he possibly be looking for her? Then she remembered what Lu Xinian had told her in his letter. Meng Po had given him 5 extra days. A small spark of hope lit up inside her. If Xingye could come back, could Lu Xinian come back too? Song Wenying didn't waste another second. She rushed back to the villa as fast as she could, and there, sitting calmly in a chair with a cup of tea in his hand, was Xingye. When he saw her, he smiled. "Wenying, did you miss me?" Song Wenying stared at him. "How are you alive?" Xingye already knew what she was thinking. He slowly smiled. "Just like Lu Xinian said, Meng Po really does exist. She gave me 5 extra days too. If I complete one thing, I can stay alive." Then he leaned back and looked at her. "Do you want to know what I have to do?" Song Wenying didn't care. Her voice dropped. "What about Lu Xinian? He can come back too, right? This time, I don't care what the condition is. I'll do it. As long as Lu Xinian can come back, I'll do anything." Xingye's smile disappeared. He looked at her with open mockery. "Even if you have to die?" Song Wenying didn't hesitate. "Yes." But Xingye let out a bitter laugh. "Too bad. What you need to do is worse than dying." Then he looked her straight in the eye. "I asked about Lu Xinian. He got 5 extra days because he still had feelings he couldn't let go of. He hated you. He resented you. He still wanted something from you. But after everything you did to him, he gave up. He went to reincarnation. You'll never see him again." The hope in Song Wenying's eyes shattered. She had rushed back because she thought there might still be a way. She wasn't ready to hear that Lu Xinian was truly gone. "Shut up," she said. Then she grabbed Xingye by the throat. Her eyes burned with rage. "If all you can do is say useless things, then I don't mind killing you again." But Xingye had already died once. He was no longer afraid of her. He laughed even as she held his throat. "Kill me, and you'll never find out how to see Lu Xinian again." The second he said Lu Xinian's name, Song Wenying's hand froze. Xingye smiled smugly. "I can find Meng Po on the 5th day. And if I stay alive, I can ask her where Lu Xinian went." Song Wenying's hands curled into fists. "What do you want?" Xingye's smile grew wider. "You have to love me. If you make me feel loved, I'll stay alive. And if I stay alive, you might get a chance to find Lu Xinian." Song Wenying stared at him in disgust. Love Xingye? After everything she had learned about him, the thought alone made her sick. She stayed silent. Xingye knew he had found her weakness. "Even if you don't love me, fake it. Pretend. You said you would do anything for Lu Xinian, didn't you? If you can't do this, I'll leave right now." Xingye turned as if he was about to walk out. Song Wenying gritted her teeth and grabbed his wrist. Xingye knew she would stop him. He looked pleased with himself. Deep down, he hated the fact that even after death, Song Wenying still couldn't let Lu Xinian go. Song Wenying held his wrist so tightly that her nails almost dug into his skin. Then, forcing down every bit of disgust inside her, she said his name. "Xingye." It had been a long time since she said it that way. The moment the word left her mouth, she felt like she couldn't breathe. But if this gave her even the smallest chance to see Lu Xinian again, she would endure it. Xingye smiled and wrapped an arm around her shoulders. "Wenying, this is nice. In the end, it's still us together." Song Wenying's hands clenched until her palms hurt. Then she stared at him with hatred in her eyes. "The only person I love is Lu Xinian. These 5 days are only for him." Xingye only smiled. Their deal had to stay secret. So in public, Song Wenying and Xingye went back to acting like the perfect couple. They traveled together. They went to see the northern lights and took beautiful photos under the sky. Xingye posted one online with the caption, "The person beside me will always be you." Song Wenying reposted it. The internet immediately went wild. But unlike before, people weren't impressed. They were confused. Didn't Song Wenying's husband just die? So she's already publicly dating Xingye? What do you expect? Song Wenying and Lu Xinian were only married because of their families. They never loved each other. They were always fighting. Now that Lu Xinian is gone, she can finally be with the person she really wanted. But Lu Xinian was still her husband. He's barely gone, and she's already showing off another man online. That's messed up. The criticism kept growing. Even Song Wenying's friends didn't understand what she was doing. Just days ago, she had been crying over Lu Xinian. She had looked like she would never recover from losing him. Then Xingye appeared, and suddenly she was acting like Lu Xinian had never mattered. They began to wonder whether she had ever loved Lu Xinian at all. Eventually, they asked Song Wenying to meet them. But when she arrived, Xingye came with her. One of the women looked uncomfortable. "Wenying, this is supposed to be a meeting between us. Bringing Xingye here doesn't feel right." Xingye smiled casually and kept his arm around Song Wenying. "What can't I hear? I used to hang out with Wenying all the time. Don't treat me like an outsider." Song Wenying nodded. "Xingye is the person I love. There's no reason for him to leave." Nobody knew how to respond after that. Finally, one of them took a breath and asked the question everyone had been thinking. "Wenying, who do you actually love? A few days ago, you said you loved Lu Xinian. You were devastated after he died. We all saw it. But now you're with Xingye again. Who do you love?" The room went quiet. Xingye smiled and held Song Wenying's hand tighter. Song Wenying felt sick. She didn't love Xingye. Every second she spent pretending with him made her want to get away. But she only had 5 days. She had to keep going if she wanted even one chance to see Lucinian. So she forced herself to look at her friends. A few days ago, what I felt for Lucinian was guilt, she said. Nothing more. I've thought about it. The person I've always loved is Xingye. That will never change. And if any of you look down on me for that, I don't care. If you want to leave, then leave. As long as I have Xingye, that's enough. Everyone stared at her in shock. One person stood up and walked out. Then another. Soon almost everyone had left the room. Even her closest friend, the woman who had grown up with her, stayed behind for a moment. She put a hand on Song Wenying's shoulder. Wenying, I feel bad for Lucinian. I know it's not really my place to say this. But we've known each other for so long. I just hope you don't regret this one day. Then she left too. The room became quiet. Only Song Wenying and Xingye remained. Song Wenying's face was pale. She hadn't expected her friends to walk away from her, but she kept telling herself one thing. Just make it through 5 days. If she could see Lucinian again, every sacrifice would be worth it. She held Xingye's hand tightly. Xingye looked smug. They're blind, he said. How am I worse than Lucinian? Wenying, you love me most, right? Song Wenying looked at him. To her, he felt like a stranger. Cold, unfamiliar, disgusting. But she forced herself to smile. Of course. You're 100 times better than Lucinian. I love you, Xingye. After that, Song Wenying and Xingye went everywhere together. She bought him expensive jewelry. She posted photos of them constantly. Their social media was filled with romantic dates and happy moments. At first, people still criticized them, but after a few days, public opinion started changing. Some people began calling them a perfect match. Others even said Lucinian had only been in the way. Every time Song Wenying read those comments, she felt sick inside. She wanted to defend Lucinian. She wanted to tell everyone they had no idea who he was. But because of the deal with Xingye, she had to stay quiet. One night, Xingye tried to get close to her again. Only 5 days, he said. Can't you at least let me hold you? Song Wenying's face went cold. She pushed him away. I'm not in the mood. Xingye moved closer again. You only have 5 days. Don't be so heartless. Song Wenying shoved him harder this time. He lost his balance and fell off the bed. Her voice was full of hatred. These 5 days are fake, Xingye. Don't push your luck. The only person I love is Lucinian. I will never let you touch me. Xingye gave a cold laugh from the floor. That sounds nice. But you weren't acting like this before. And if you don't finish what you promised, you can forget about seeing Lucinian again. Song Wenying's heart twisted painfully. She wanted to see Lucinian so badly, even if it was only once. Even if he refused to forgive her. Even if he never wanted to speak to her again. She just wanted to see him. So she swallowed her pride. She helped Xingye back up, and she let him wrap his arms around her. Xingye smiled happily and rested against her. But Song Wenying felt trapped. Like those arms were a cage. She kept telling herself that this was for Lucinian. Everything was for Lucinian. But the more she had to pretend to be close to Xingye, the more painful it became. She bit her lip and forced herself to endure until morning. The next day, they had a candlelit dinner at the most expensive restaurant in the city. On the third day, Song Wenying cut Xingye's steak into small pieces and fed him in front of everyone. On the fourth day, Xingye pretended to fall into the water. Song Wenying didn't want to save him. But she did it anyway because of their agreement. She jumped in, pulled him out, and stayed by his side while he acted unconscious. By then, Song Wenying had given Xingye nearly everything he asked for. She let him control her public image. She let him force her friends away. She let him use her name to humiliate Lucinian. And finally, Xingye asked for something even bigger. He wanted Song Wenying to transfer enough shares to make him the controlling owner of the Song group. It was a ridiculous demand. But Song Wenying agreed. That decision enraged the Song family. The elders called her back immediately. When she entered the family home, the old master was so furious that he threw his cane at her. Song Wenying didn't defend herself. She knew she had disappointed her family. She knew she had no right to face Lucinian's family either. But this was the only path Xingye had left for her. The only path that might lead her back to Lucinian. Her voice was hoarse when she repeated herself. I'm willing to give up everything for him. That day, the family punished Song Wenying harshly. By the time it was over, she could barely stand. But even covered in bruises and barely able to walk, she went back to the villa. Because her mind was focused on only one thing. Today was day 5. Xingye was sitting at the table eating breakfast when she came in. He looked at her injuries and pretended to be shocked. Wenying, what happened to you? He rushed over to support her, but there was no real concern in his eyes. He only looked pleased. He knew exactly how badly the Song family punished people. And seeing Song Wenying hurt like this secretly made him happy. But Song Wenying didn't care about the pain. She only had one question. What do I have to do today? Xingye's face darkened. Even now, all she could think about was Lucinian. He looked at her for a long moment. Then he said, Marry me. Song Wenying's face instantly turned white. No. For the first time, she refused without hesitation. Xingye stepped closer. This is the last thing. Today is the 5th day. I'm not asking for a huge wedding. I'm not asking for a marriage certificate. I just want you to say that you're divorcing Lucinian and choosing me. Xingye kept pushing. Song Wenying's breathing became uneven. She had already lost her friends. She had already damaged her relationship with her family. She had already given up so much. But divorce was different. If she said it, she would be cutting off the last thing connecting her to Lu Xinian. She stood there in silence. Xingye smiled coldly. If you refuse, then forget about seeing Lu Xinian. Choose Wenying. Time passed slowly, minute by minute. The 5th day was almost over. Finally, Song Wenying walked toward Xingye. I agree, she said quietly. Her voice sounded calm, but Xingye could see the pain in her eyes. He smiled with satisfaction and kissed her cheek. Then he went into the room and brought out a wedding dress he had prepared. It was beautiful, but to Song Wenying it was unbearable to look at. Still, she forced herself to speak. I'm willing to divorce Lu Xinian. I'm choosing Xingye. The second she said it, all her strength seemed to disappear. Xingye hugged her tightly. Fake tears filled his eyes. I finally get to marry you, Wenying. Do you know how long I've waited for this? These past 5 days were so perfect. From now on, we'll stay together forever, okay? Wenying, I love you. Do you love me? For a second, Song Wenying almost wrapped her arms around him. Then something inside her suddenly woke up. She pushed him away. Her face was full of anger and panic. I don't love you. I love Lu Xinian. Xingye, I did everything you asked. Where is Lu Xinian? Xingye fell to the floor. Pain shot through his body, but his anger was worse. He had come so close. Why couldn't Song Wenying forget Lu Xinian? He screamed at her. You said you loved me! Wenying, you love me! You loved me before you married Lu Xinian. We were together first. Now we're just going back to the way things were supposed to be. But Song Wenying slowly calmed down. She looked at Xingye with certainty in her eyes. The only person I love is Lu Xinian. I was wrong before. What I felt for you was guilt. It wasn't love. Xingye, we need to stop this. I only did these things because I wanted to see Lu Xinian again. I told you from the beginning. These 5 days were for him. Xingye finally understood. He had lost. After everything he had planned, after all the pain he caused, Song Wenying still chose Lu Xinian. His face twisted with rage. And then he started laughing. Song Wenying, stop dreaming. Lu Xinian is never coming back. I lied to you. Everything I told you was a lie. Lu Xinian already went to reincarnation. You can't find him. You can't see him. You can't make up for anything. You think you have another chance? You don't. You hurt him with your own hands. You didn't save him. You'll never see him again for the rest of your life. And now you even divorced him. You gave up everything for him. But Lu Xinian will never come back to you. Song Wenying's eyes filled with rage. She couldn't believe it. Everything she had done over the past 5 days had been for nothing. All of it had been Xingye's game. She rushed toward him. But Xingye had prepared for this. He pulled out a knife, and before Song Wenying could stop him, he stabbed her. Song Wenying was already weak from everything she had endured. She didn't have the strength to fight back. She fell to the floor as blood spread beneath her. Xingye stood over her, completely out of control. All the rage, jealousy, and hatred he had kept inside finally came out. But Song Wenying barely heard him anymore. Her vision was fading. And in those final moments, she thought she saw Lu Xinian again. She heard his voice in her head. All I wanted was for you to say one thing. Just say you love me. Song Wenying tried to reach for him. She wanted to tell him the truth. She wanted to tell him that she loved him, that she had always loved him. But blood filled her throat. Not a single word came out. Only then did she fully understand. They had missed their chance. There was no going back. Song Wenying closed her eyes. Tears slipped down her face. Nearby, Xingye cried and laughed at the same time. He knew he was going to disappear once the 5 days were over. He hated Song Wenying. He hated Lu Xinian. During those 5 days, he got almost everything he wanted. But he never got the one thing that mattered. A future. And as the final night came to an end, Xingye's body slowly began to fade away. He thought killing Lu Xinian would make him Song Wenying's chosen one. But in the end, he lost everything. The 5th day finally ended. All the love, all the hate, all the revenge, all the regret, all the hope. It all disappeared into the darkness with them. Everything was over.